Pretty sure that's the main motto that the toy higher-ups hang in their offices. We open this penultimate episode with the apocalypse on the horizon, as everyone, except for the plot-relevant side characters, still hadn't gotten their motivation back. Now, of course, you'd think that these characters got the special treatment because they would maybe play a part in the grand finale, like as moral support, as is so often the case in these Precure finales, but, WRONG! Instead, our heroines got help from their now former enemies who were up and about in spite of having their motivation drained in the last episode, which Laura rightfully questioned.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
Come to think of it, I probably should have used that clip last week too. I'll admit, it is a cute detail that they repurposed Elda's summoning animation for this shot, as well as had the Kirs themselves put on their cereal faces for the roll call. And the animators, as I predicted, brought their A-game as good old Nishiki Itoka was in the animation director's seat. As a result, we finally got to see these three use the attacks that they always used in the opening, and at this point will never actually use them against the Precure because they hardly fought in the show at all. But I'll save talking about stuff like that for the overview after the show ends, as I have a few things to say about the series as a whole. Anyway, while they dealt with the drones from the flashback sequences, the Precure fought their beer-gutted final boss. Yeah, some of the commenters said that Butler got swole after he became a Yaneda. I would have to humbly disagree and say that he's fat! But yeah, we got a very impressive, if short sequence, where while I did mind the lower frame rate, I almost want to say they went a little overboard in the detail. I mean, I know I keep referencing how this guy has a JoJo VA, but y'all don't have to take it this far. And thankfully, pulling out their finisher too early got the right results this time, and the rotund seahorse launched his counterattack in another visually impressive sequence. It loses a few points for disrespecting Sango yet again, but... Okay, you get 1 point for that. Sent to literal rock bottom with no bus in sight. All seemed lost, and wait, didn't Butler also need their motivation energy to fill up the casket? Oh, think about it! Well, not as though it really mattered, as our heroines just kind of got their second wind out of nowhere. Seriously, I'm not really compressing things that much, as within just about a minute of waking up, Manatsu kipped up, and now they were all set for round 2 after raising some very predictable victory flags. I mean, this more than anything feels like a parody of many final battles in toy shows, to the point I'm half expecting the Akiba Ranger to suddenly appear and win the day for them. But okay, they've gotten their second win, so I'm sure this will lead to an awesome final battle between the forces of good and evil and...
hell was that?
No, I need one more clip than just that!
What? What the
So, yeah, after a finisher that makes an Aztec deity dressed as a Samba Santa look dignified by comparison, the final boss of this season was just defeated! I wanna call this a Deus Ex Machina, but honestly, who even cares at this point, as they even kind of wasted that somewhat touching farewell between the witch and Arnett by having her do this. However, Butler still wasn't finished simping for his e-girl, so he filled up the remainder of the casket with his own motivation, activating the Doomsday Machine, which is certainly dreadful, but I'm more interested in learning what happened to Jongki's eye here, and is he going to be okay? I say that because really at this point, we shouldn't expect any real conflict, as sure enough, Queenie just came in with her whole damn kingdom to do a big damn hero moment, which upsets me for reasons I'll get to later. But yeah, Laura just pulled off one last motivation comeback with some support from her team, but let's face it, she probably could have done it on her own because she's the real main heroine of the show. And with that, they all managed to escape as the lair of the witch was buried under rubble. Laura then returned the stolen motivation to everyone, including the residents of her kingdom and some fishermen. Wait, have those guys been lying on the docks ever since episode 16? How have they not died of starvation? I mean, going by the Grand Ocean residents, it seems like normal people don't just get their motivation back like Manatsu, so we should assume these are the same guys from that episode and not just victims of the whale and... Yeah, never mind, I'm just overthinking things, aren't I? Anyway, there was still a little motivation left over, specifically Butler's, though rather than returning to the guy, our heroines decide to just hold on to it. I sure hope Numeri can provide him with a feeding tube or something. Anyway, they tried to leave it in the care of Queenie, but... Yeah, sure, just let it go so they can become the extra final boss of the season so that Cure Precious has a reason to make an early bird cameo or whatever. And after some rather nonchalant farewells with their former enemies, our heroines went right back to working on their little festival. This included doing some sewing, reproducing Cloud's Buster Sword, then also helping the other clubs, including whatever is going on here, and then Asuka was going to go kill her dad, and Ladies and gents, the show is giving up, and you know what? So have I! Okay, sorry, I kind of lost my head there, as at the very least, there was also a cute moment between Asuka and Yuriko, and Lord knows I need something to ground me back to reality at this point. Anyway, the Tropical Club got permission to sleep over at the school to finish up their setup, even being given some pretty awesome sleeping bags. Seriously, I want that sarcophagus bag. However, in the middle of the night, someone, who really should have been the final boss of the series, gave Laura a call. Queenie had just decided, for no real reason, to move her kingdom far away from their current location, and wanted Laura to come back so that they could begin her final preparations for becoming the next queen. Which I'm pretty sure is also going to include a little memory wiping, but that's just a minor little detail in the grand scheme of things. Though she did give Laura an option to stay with her friends in the most gaslighting way possible.
You're a loser without me. It's this or the cell.
Some choice.
Oh, if only, but really, I'm not expecting much at this point. Anyway, the episode ended with Manatsu hearing that little ultimatum. Okay, so all jokes aside, I'll be perfectly honest, I really wasn't expecting much from this final battle, so I guess you could say in some ways this surpassed my expectations. At least when it came to the WTF factor. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is still an incredibly rushed and nonsensical finale that feels like one of the most satirical parodies of the toy superhero genre, but compared to last week's underwhelming resolutions where I was left feeling pretty much nothing, with this big climax, I guess I could say this is at least one of the prettiest displays of not giving one Still, with so many plot lines like the memory machine subplot pretty much just becoming a forgotten memory in of itself, all I'm left saying is, can we eat yet? You know, maybe it's because I just watched the FGO Solomon film, which is by no means a perfect flick, but you know, compared to that overly fanservice-y climax, this feels way more pandering, and not exactly in a good way. Like, on the one hand, compared to many other grand climaxes where the Precure fight to preserve things like individuality, dreams and hopes, or even the right to live when faced with the unstoppable force of evolution, this sort of bright and flashy climax is just kind of juvenile. And even putting aside the key-shaking nature of having a once tragic heroine suddenly dance the Macarena, this sort of rushed climax really goes against this show's themes of motivation when everything is resolved so easily with multiple Deus Ex Machinas. They actually managed to drain any tension they might have had during an apocalyptic scenario. But, on the other hand, maybe this was the only option they had. I mean, it's clear at this point that they've dropped all of the other subplots, in particular the memory machine, which I'll keep saying they must have had some sort of plans for, but because someone in the production got cold feet, they just couldn't commit to it for one reason or another, and thus Queenie is never going to answer for her legit war crimes, and will probably never get a real answer for why the Grand Ocean broke ties with the surface world, or at least not a satisfying one if the previews are anything to go by. So instead, I think the staff just threw up their arms and did whatever they wanted, which in some ways I can respect. I mean, it's still not a good product, and it's even latent with a degree of cynicism, like with that laughably bad second wind scene, and yet, I have to admit, I laughed. I think the staff knew that the show couldn't go out with any sort of dignity, so they figured they may as well go out like a clown. A very flashy clown, with at least a few really good Itaoka sequences, but a clown nonetheless. In that sense, I do have to kind of salute the show and its staff for just going straight into so bad it's good territory. Y'all had so many more interesting paths you could have gone down with this story, but ultimately just couldn't commit for one reason or another. But hey, like an actual Samba parade, at least we had some bright, flashy fun, even if we are going to have some headaches tomorrow morning. If you haven't seen it yet, we actually managed to get one last video out for the upcoming season, which honestly wasn't too easy when you have the literally backbreaking job of taking care of a niece. But yeah, we managed to take a look at some interviews that the producers and main voice cast provided for the website, so do check it out if you at least want to see how enthusiastic that the main voices of the show are, which, spoilers, is more than at least a little excited. Still, even though the new season is on the way and this show is ending, we do have some little extra content planned for Tropical-Rouge, so do look forward to that as well. And until then though, farewell for now my friends, and you know, usually when these shows end, we provide them with a little bit of a parting toast, so maybe for this one, we should do something a little different and make it a Blue Hawaii. Okay, let me just look up a recipe and, yeah, I think I'll just stick with the bourbon.